In this video, we're going to continue this discussion about working with databases. So this is part 2 of the working with databases. And the first thing we're going to do is go over here to targets. And targets are where you define where you're going to run these workflows on. So you can see that I already have one set up here called AODB. That's the database we had set up in the previous step in the previous video. And what we did in the previous video is we set up a DB instance in AWS, and then on that instance, we also set up a database, and we called them the same things just for ease of use. So what we had to do here is just give this a name because this is the target, give it some account keys, which I already had pre-set up, pick the type of database server that you're using. So in this case, it's MySQL. You get the endpoint address that we had from the last video and put it in here along with the port, and also what the database name is. So nothing too hard here. Now we're ready to use this database in a workflow. So I've created a workflow here called DB demo, and it's probably like 8 to 10 steps here. And really, after everything we do a select statement. And these select statements are just to show what records are there initially and also after each step. So we started this out with an initial select statement just to see what's in the database. And there's one record just there just so that we can see something. And then what we're going to do is insert into that table. Insert means that we're going to put another record into the table. And if you go down here, you can see that this is just a regular insert command like you would use in MySQL. It's the same language, same syntax, same everything. Then we're going to run select to see what occurred, and I'm just selecting everything from the table that I called state. So basically what I did is I created a faux kind of state record here so that if we wanted to use something within the orchestrator that wanted to maintain state, the idea is that we create this state table so that we can then maintain that state and do something with the workflow. Now this isn't probably exactly how I would do it. It's just kind of a faux record right now, but it was just to illustrate some kind of usage. So in this particular case, I'm going to select after the insert. And then I did a little bit of math here. And this is there's kind of 2 ways to do this here. So what I wanted to do is be able to update and to be able to delete from this database here. So basically every time a row comes across here, we get an ID, and the ID is incremented. And the problem with that is that every time we run it, it's going to increment. So we have to figure out what that particular ID is. In order to get that, we could have looped through and did a loop, like a while loop, in order to figure out what that is. But the easier way to get the ID is to just use a little jQuery. So you can see I do some jQuery here, some JSON query, where we'd say activity select statement after insert output response body. So basically I get the response body from the select statement from the last select, and then I'm just looking for the ID. And since we have to convert that to a 0-based ID, I actually did up here -1. I actually did a -1 here, so that way we can convert it back to a -1. And what you can see here is in the update table, I have that ID here. So that ID is put in here, and an update is basically if you already have a record but you want to change that record. So I changed it from WordPress to Kibana here. So in this step, we use that math to create and update a record. Then we just select to see what happens there. And then after all, I want to delete this because this isn't a record I really want in there. I just want to use it for this particular demo. But in order to delete, we also need that ID. So all this math that we did here, we could use that in the update and delete. And then finally, the last thing we do is just show a select. So let's view the run and see what happened there. So this is the one I just ran. And if we click on here, we could see that in the select, I have an initial record here. So this said Helm install MySQL. It's an ID of 1. And then, so I have basically, if this was to be used, I have the initial command that was created. So it keeps the state of, okay, this was installed. The state is installed. And if the reverse command, if I want to remove it, is Helm remove MySQL. So we have that. And then we have the select table after that, the insert table after that, where we're going to insert an additional value, where we put in that the installed WordPress and remove WordPress in there. Then we're running the select to see that that actually got put in there. And you can see now I have another record here. You notice it's 16. That means I ran this about 14 or 15 more times before this record was here. And since I'm deleting it every time, the next time this is going to come up as 17. Now, if we look through here, you can see that I did count equals T 2 minus 1. Count was the record number, or I'm sorry, the ID number. And I minus everything by 1, and that gives me the 0-based value that I need to get the ID from last row. So now I have this ID is 16, so 16 minus 1 is going to be 15. And if we keep moving down here, you can see this is an update table. And in this particular one, I said update state set command equals helm install Kibana, reverse command equals helm remove Kibana, where ID equals 16. So basically, if we saw that up here, that in the insert, I created a new record, and we saw that new record 16. So it's using that same ID, but it's going to update that record to now have this command. Instead of WordPress, it's going to say Kibana. So now we'll select that statement to see if that actually occurred. And we see we still have the same record 16, but now we have a select, update that updated that record. So it's no longer WordPress, it says Kibana in there. And then last but not least, we delete from the table. And we see that we deleted where it equals 16. And that's about it. So you can see that you could easily use these commands from within AO or within the orchestrator in order to, look at and manipulate tables that could be very useful in your workflows. So if you have to maintain state, if you want to save some variables, or if you want to save anything that needs to be saved over time, this becomes a very useful feature of the orchestrator. That's about it for now. In the next video or in a future video, we might look at actually how to do state with the database using something like Helm. So stay tuned for that.